Welcome to the Heart-Centered Entrepreneur Podcast. I want you to be rich. Yes, I want abundant financial success for your business. But I don't just care about your business making money. I care about you too. I want you to be rich in happiness, in the impact you make, in your relationships, and in how you give back. I'm Anna. I built my six-figure business as a side hustle while I was pregnant with my daughter in 2016. Now I've helped dozens of women do the same. I'm here to help you build a profitable, heart-centered, fully booked business with the latest tips on sales and visibility, with proven mindset hacks, and sneak peeks behind the scenes with what's working right now in the online space and in my business. Ready to make more money with heart? Let's go. Hi, friends. For anyone else, does it take like 7 times longer to do something than you think it will? And or do you ever look at your day and be like, okay, I can definitely get these 19 things done. And then you get halfway through the list and you're like, wow, I will definitely get 4 of these things done today. That happened to me today. Partially because I am still adjusting back from international travel, got to take my beautiful kids to Ireland. Also, the solar eclipse was today. How my family was making the biggest deal out of it. And I was like, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, it was amazing. Like my dad got those little solar glasses. So I just laid on my back cement and watched the eclipse. And honestly was really in awe of it. And probably like you, I'm someone who's a deep thinker. So just like asking myself the deep questions of life while wearing those silly glasses and staring up at the sun for who knows how long today. But I digress. I just want to talk about this. And I think as ambitious women, just this conversation, hopefully I have some tips for you that might help, but also I hope this is just super normalizing and I hope it will be motivating so you know what direction to put your ambition. Okay, so I have a few little tips first. So I think I've realized in business that like things always take longer than I think they will, but something that has actually helped me is making sure that I put time amounts on things. You guys know I'm a big fan of the daily check-in, which is just a little exercise I try to do every morning. And it's about 10 to 20 minutes long. And you're basically checking in 6 different areas. I'll include a link in the show notes. It's just a free Google Doc. But one of those sections is called priorities. And that's where I basically look at my Google Calendar for the day and just remind myself, these are when my client calls are. These are when my open pockets are. And how do I want to spend those open pockets? I look at my to-do list and see what I can plug in. Ideally, you're doing this at the start of your week and planning your week. But I honestly do it often like day to day. But really creating specific time amounts on like this task will take me 15 minutes. Reviewing that email sequence will take me 30 minutes and really setting an agenda for myself. This is something I started doing back when I started creating content online and it really served me. And that is what I call doing a content workshop, or like, let's say for next week in your marketing, you need to create 3 reels, 2 emails, and 1 social post. Setting an agenda for that hour instead of being like content creation for an hour, right? Being like, what is that hour going to look like? First, I'm going to, I really recommend even before that hour, honestly, already deciding what your content will be on, because that is a thing in itself. You guys know I've been playing with reels more, and I've really been dividing into one day deciding what reels I'm going to create, and then a different day actually creating them. But either way, in that hour, making sure you're really dividing out, okay, I've got 10 minutes to record each one. And you're someone that you can perform well when you have that structure and when you have a deadline. But if it's open-ended, that's where it can be a little bit harder to get things done, right? Pros and cons of being a boss to yourself. So making sure you have your priorities. I also will put my priorities for the day in order so that I'm doing the most important things first, and or the things I'm most likely to procrastinate, and or the things I'm dreading or avoiding, putting those first, right? I really recommend my girls in the mastermind when they do their sales actions, like they have, if you clock in and do your selling time, you can unlock one-on-one bonus sessions with me. And I really encourage them to do that first thing in the morning. Are you taking 15 minutes to connect with potential clients, right? Whatever it is, even before you do everything else in your business, like check your email. So prioritizing them when it comes to the order you're doing them, making sure there's really clear amounts, is just a point that I wanted to make in case that's useful for you. Something else is I really have this belief, and I just feel like this year more and more as I'm scaling my business, I'm taking more risks, right? I've been playing with Facebook ads a little bit. I've been playing with Reels a little bit. I mean, people can say like, is that a risk? I don't know. But for me, I'm very like change averse, risk averse, like failure averse. Like I am someone that likes to be safe in my home with my kids, and might surprise you to hear, but like I'm not a really big public person. I like my small friend circle. And so because of that, it really does take a lot of mindset work to get me to want to grow, because I get really content with where I am. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. And it's a good problem to have, but it can almost make me over content and settling instead of really looking at what do I want to improve in a non-hustle-ish way, right? Okay, where was I at? So for me, a lot of the things that on my to-do list don't get done are because either I'm scared. There's like some sort of fear there. Like, what if I do this thing and a client isn't happy? What if I do this thing and it works and I make more money and I'm more busy and am not present for my kids, right? And what if it doesn't work and I look a certain way, right? I think a lot of it can be because of fear. I think a lot of it though is because as you're growing and scaling your business, a lot of the actions you're taking are not immediately gratifying. In fact, what I noticed was this really interesting thing as I've been in business for 8 years, right? The beginning of business, yes, it's hard. And yes, it's a little bit miserable because nothing's really working at the start and you're like throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. But you know what is really nice is it's really immediately gratifying because you're kind of doing a lot spur of the moment and getting a lot of instant results, right? You're like instant feedback, right? You're like creating your social posts in the moment. You're selling something, then you're selling another offer. It's just very moment to moment. And while we want to get away from that so that our business is feeling more calm and grounded, the one nice thing about it is it's very gratifying and there's a lot of feedback and a lot of intensity. It's kind of like at the beginning of a romantic relationship, right? For me, I would much rather have long-term love than like puppy dog love. But there is something that's beautiful and sweet about puppy dog love, right? Same thing about business, right? We want the long-term financially profitable, financially stable business, but it is a little bit less exciting. It's a little bit less gratifying. And I think just remembering that so you're not making yourself wrong, as a lot of those things on your to-do list, like what I noticed for me as I've grown and scaled my business is more and more things on my to-do list are important, but not urgent, right? When you're working in advance, like if you're recording a podcast episode and it's not going to see the light of day for like 3 more weeks, that's not really immediately gratifying, right? No one's giving you feedback on that content. If you are, and a lot of the actions that you're taking actually don't save you time or save you money. They cost you time or cost you money. Like I think about some of the programs and courses I've created that haven't seen the light of day for a while, and or maybe the first launch I sold a few spots, but it wasn't till a few launches down the road that I was making like 6 figures on that program, right? That is delayed gratification. Like I think about the videos that I recorded for either my mastermind Sell with Heart or my course Getting Coached. Like I really didn't make hundreds of thousands of dollars on that until a year or more later. And it's just interesting, right? I think also about like hiring team members, initially hiring team to support you. It costs money and it costs time because you're training people. And it's so interesting because when you're going to scale and or like create scaled products, or even if you have a done for you product, you're creating like systems and onboarding and offboarding and streamlining the experience, right? All of that costs time and costs money. And it's like, you don't want to do that, right? But it is the thing in the long run that is going to make you more money. And so I think just reminding yourself that like those long-term moves, those long-term actions, they're worth it. And I think for me, I'm more settled into it now, but I do remember there was a season where I was like, oh, my business actions are going to be one of the downsides of having a more profitable, stable business is, again, like it's less exciting, it's less gratifying, and you really have to motivate yourself to do actions that aren't as time sensitive, which is kind of nice because then your business isn't as like hustly. But again, that downside is you really do have to like motivate yourself there. and take the time. This is why I love, love, love having most of my client calls Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because then it really allows me time Tuesdays and then a little bit on Monday, Fridays to do some of the like CEO actions, the things that aren't as time sensitive, the things that are bigger picture, moving the needle forward. On my to-do list. And honestly, yeah, like I said, like I love going to coffee shops for this. That helps motivate me. Also, what helps motivate me right now, I have two main, team members, my OBM and my VA. And my OBM, her job is to really like vision forward and look ahead in my business for some of the bigger projects and hold me accountable for some of the actions that I need to take to grow and scale or do my next thing, right? Planning the next launch that's not happening for 4 more months, right? Planning and helping me with projects that are longer term. And my VA and I are really there often like in the moment, like executing on what she's created and planned in advance. So I think for sure team helps me with this. Like I shared this example with you guys before, but like something as simple as my bookkeeper calls me and we meet for 20 minutes every month to review my books. Because otherwise, if that were just like a task on my to-do list, I really would not do it. And I would be overwhelmed at the end of the year for tax season. So he basically babysits me to review my books every year, right? So I think like team really can help with, I know for me, my coach is a big part of me. I just emailed her or sent her a message in our chat about, something that's not going to happen for 2 more months and really like setting aside time to chat with her on that. I'm someone that's like rather communal. And so my long-term actions are more instantly gratifying for me when I'm not doing them alone, when I'm like chatting with someone about it, at least, if that makes sense. So that's something that's been super helpful for me. And then also, I just wanted to share like the mindset in general around, I share this in my book, but really making sure have your mindset right around goals. I think as ambitious women, we can get confused on what goals are for. And my belief is that goals are not really meant to be created to meet them all. Goals are meant to put us in the right direction. Goals are meant to change us as a person as we make the goal, as we move towards our goal. But for me, I love setting a goal and then really surrendering to whatever happens because of that. So obviously one example is when I had the goal to save my 20K as a freedom fund to create financial stability for myself. But when I made that goal, I had no idea really that I wanted to buy my house later on and that money would start moving towards that. I was just taking action towards that one direction. I've also had goals that I have set that, quote, have failed, right? I remember I was going to get my bar teacher certification and I started the certificate, but I didn't finish it because it wasn't a priority at the time. And then really 3 years later, I went back to complete it, right? But in the process of doing that, I really feel like it gave me a lot of clarity around my own personal fitness journey and gave me a lot of clarity around like how I can just practice by myself at home when I memorize the moves. So I think it's just remembering that like our job is to like set the goal, but not every goal we will meet. Some goals we will abandon because we decide it's no longer serving us. Some goals we will surpass. Some goals we will not hit, right? I think about this when I set like launch or program goals. I always set like an intention in my heart of how many women I'd like in a certain pod of a mastermind or a program, right? But then and that helps me create my actions, right? Like let's say I want 10 people in a program. I'm like, okay, that means I've got to get 100 people into the conversion event. That means I've got to send 30 private invites. That informs my action. The goal informs our action. But then I really celebrate myself for taking the action. And I don't know if this is controversial, but I really say, God, okay, I'm really surrendering to you on what my result looks like, right? And I'm going to trust like kind of like what's meant to be will be. And however many women end up being in this round of the program, that's who I'm going to show up and serve with all of my heart, right? And then doing that, moving on to the next thing and really trusting, again, the goal, I think, informs our action, which is super helpful for the day-to-day. So you can celebrate yourself and be like, yeah, I showed up and grew my list by this much, or I did that thing that I know supports that. But again, I'm not putting like this insane pressure on myself around the results because honestly, the results of our life, again, maybe this is controversial, but I don't think we have a lot of control over. right? We don't have control over when which client signs on which day. I think we can be determined to work on a goal and detach from the timeline until it happens, right? I'm a big fan of like when I made that goal to have my 20K freedom fund, I was like, I'm going to work on this for 90 days, but if I don't hit it in 90 days, I'm just going to keep working on it till I do it, right? I remember at the start of my business, I was like, I'm going to get fully booked with like 8 clients or whatever it was. And I'm going to keep doing it until I hit eight clients. Like, I don't care if I have to show up for 10 years. Like, I'm going to figure this out. So I think there is something to be said about like being detached from that like timeline of it and just working till it happens, which actually makes it happen faster. But again, I really think the point of goals is to move our action in the right direction. And I think as we're pursuing a goal, we change and become a different person as we're risking, as we're, we're changing from the inside, as we're taking different actions in that human trajectory, right? Okay, so a point I want to leave you with is really in the season of scaling and working on like, again, longer term actions that are less gratifying. Sorry to spoil it for you. But I really feel like something that's really changed the game for me is celebrating myself. Because when you are in a place as an ambitious woman, often you've probably been in work situations before where you have won every game you've played, which sounds good, but honestly, it's not, because that means you're playing it safe. If you are meeting every goal you're making, it means your goals are not big enough, right? You're not really reaching to your capacity. If you aren't hitting all of your goals, that's good because you're stretching yourself, right? And so, often like in our day jobs, we're used to like being perfect and performing perfectly. But in business, the whole goal is that we're like setting these impossible goals that are really pushing us. In my book, I have this diagram of like target, and it talks about like, if you shoot for 30, great, you can get 30. If you shoot for 100, maybe you won't get 100, but what if you got like 64? That's way better than the 30. You know what I mean? And so I think, how do we, though, as ambitious women, do this without losing our minds is celebrating ourselves, right? Really owning, what are you doing well? What are you doing right? Even if you're not, quote, always meeting your goals, always crushing it at the end game, how are you crushing it on your path? So for me, I always encourage my clients, like, every quarter, every month, but I do this personally daily. In my daily check-in, one of those 6 elements is wins. And I write down the things that I'm proud of. I write down the things I accomplished, small or big. And I really try to focus on my action more so than the outcome. Like if I'm hiring a new team member, I'm like, my win is I created the application. My win is that I met with, I asked people to share the application. My win is that I did interviews. My win is that I sent a rejection, a no, to 4 people that weren't a fit, because that's getting me closer to my person that is a fit. Those are wins. When we see it like wins, then doing our goals gets a lot more gratifying, because number one, we feel good along the way to our goal. And here's the thing, most of our life is moving towards a goal, because once we hit a goal, we make another goal. And so you just feel really good about yourself. And I don't know about you, but like as a mom, so much of we don't get credit for. For example, this weekend, I, for the umpteenth time, took my kids' clothes, decluttered them, got rid of the ones that have holes and don't fit anymore, and sorted out their drawers. And I was like, good job, Anna, right? I also went to paint my kids' room, did not get the whole thing painted, but you know what? I painted their door, because that was the worst part. And in business, I'm a big fan of like, okay, what's the biggest problem? How do we solve that? And their room looks way better just from the door being this beautiful, crisp white. And I could tell myself, oh my God, Anna, you didn't paint the room. You set out to make that as a goal, and you would know. Instead, I'm like, I painted their door. And honestly, I'm really proud of that. Like, I'm not someone that's super handy. I'm not a painter, but now they have a crisp white door, and I'm proud of myself, even though I only did like 10% of the project. But do you see how that puts me on a better track of like, now when I have time again, I'm going to paint the rest of the room and I'm going to get it done. And I think it's just like sometimes we get used to like beating ourselves up to motivate us towards hitting a goal. And that can work in the short term, but that really won't work in the long term because it doesn't feel good. And as humans, to hack human behavior, we want to feel good, right? And so if you want to get more things done, and so anyway, on my win sheet, I wrote painting that door, sorting my kids' clothes, right? Now, granted, because we got back from traveling, the rest of my house is a little bit messy, but did I write that on the list? No, right? And so it's really about giving yourself credit and owning that. I also do this in front of my girlfriends. Like if there's something in my business that I did, maybe I had, and especially as you're growing your business, you can't really talk about everything publicly. Like, right, recently there was something like with something legally in my business I had to take care of. Fortunately, it worked out okay. But obviously, I'm not going to talk about that publicly or with my clients. But that's something I can talk about with my coach. And my coach can be like, great job, Anna. You handled that with a lot of integrity. That's something I can write on my win sheet and be like, I handled that the best that I could. Right? And I'm telling you, it changes the game. Like it sounds silly, but really starting to shift that inner dialogue, right? In my business, one of the first pieces of content I created was about the 4 types of self-talk, right? One is the worrier, one is the critic, all of that, right? And I really feel like a lot of us have this critic in our head that's always telling us, you're not doing good enough. You didn't get the to-do list done. You weren't efficient enough, right? Oh, you didn't get the whole room painted. But if we reverse that talk, it really is key to so much. Number one, getting things done faster, and getting more results, but also feeling better. And don't we want to live our whole life feeling good, right? So anyway, celebrate my wins on my daily check-in, but also in front of my coach. I'm like, you would be proud of me. I did this thing, right? I love when my clients do that. And in the mastermind in Slack, be like, okay, girls, celebrate with me. I did this really hard thing, or I did this brave thing, or something that may not seem big to a lot of people, but to you, you know, it's a big deal. Like maybe you've never really done direct outreach and selling to your email list, but maybe you looked at who are your active subscribers, who's been clicking a lot on your emails, and you set an outreach to like 5 people and invited them to a free discovery call or something. Like that's big and brave, right? And that's something you could come into the mastermind and be like, girls, I'm so proud of myself for like putting my neck out there and like actually selling, or going on stories and talking directly about my product or service. Like selling is brave, right? But again, the selling actions, we celebrate those because what happens is the results, the 5K months, the 10K months, the 20K months, right? But celebrating those actions and those behaviors is what get you to the sexy results faster. So again, having it in your own practice among yourself, but also having a community where you can celebrate yourself and others can celebrate you too. It is brave, it is hard, but it is really the work. And I think what balances out the ambition, right? Well, it balances out the ambition and moving towards your goals faster because you are worthy of that. You are worthy of not settling. Like, I think sometimes we feel like our dreams, our visions for our life, like, are they too ambitious? No, I really don't feel like you can dream big enough as long as you balance that with being gracious toward yourself, being gentle with yourself, celebrating yourself, not making it wrong when you don't meet your goals. And again, like I blame God. I'm like, okay, God, I didn't meet that goal, but like must meant because it wasn't supposed to happen, right? Or must meant because you were sleeping on the job or something. Like, I know it sounds silly, but like sometimes like my kids will like blame me for things, right? And I think there's like a lot of comfort for kids in knowing that like they're sharing the responsibility with their parent. Obviously, they can do that too much, right? But I think there's something relaxing as a healthy child to be able to be like, not overly blame yourself for stuff. And I think as adults, sometimes we take too much ownership instead of remembering like there's something bigger. I believe there's something outside of us that's carrying our ambitions with us. And so we can relax, we can do our best, but then however things turn out, we can just surrender and not make ourselves wrong for it, if that makes sense. Okay. I know this was like a little bit of like a bleh, but I just felt like it was an important message to share because it's just something that I've been thinking through lately, something I've been talking to my clients through lately. So I hope this was helpful for you as you're thinking through your to-do list, your tasks, your priorities that are important but not urgent, and how you are making yourself feel as you go about doing it and planting those seeds, if you want my support with this, I would love to invite you to join the waitlist for my mastermind, Sell with Heart. Essentially, it's like 10 to 12 women, and I've had this same program for over 5 years now, over 10 rounds now. And it really is my women that you basically comes with free one-on-one coaching in it, group calls. We do a quarterly planning session every month. We do our mastermind calls where you get insight not just from me, but from the other women. Lots of sales templates, lots of money mindset templates. And it really is my money incubator for women already making $2K in their business, looking to make 6 figures and beyond, because I just think it's a really challenging season where, if not like the most challenging season, the messy middle biz puberty of like you're making some money, but really not quite enough money to enjoy your money. And so that's why I make the investment approachable and affordable, because I know that it's just a challenging time of really looking at how do I make massive money with integrity, with heart. And I would love to invite you to apply. Basically, join the waitlist and/or when applications open. Make sure you apply, because that's the best way for me personally get to know the inside of your business. I review all the applications myself, and it helps me see a little bit more on the inside what your business most needs. If it is the mastermind, I will definitely tell you that. If it's something else, I will tell you that too, because it's my priority that you're doing the programs that most serve you, that you're most going to profit off of and benefit from. And so I would love to invite you to do that. Also, of course, my DMs are open to you. I am an open book, and just sending you so much love on your journey. Okay, bye, lovies. Thanks for hanging out today. Please hit that subscribe button so you can make sure to stay updated anytime a new episode drops. And I would love for you to join me in my free Facebook community. It's called The Heart-Centered Entrepreneur. We discuss the podcast episodes. I regularly go live and do free trainings. And you may even meet your newest biz bestie. So you can join at heartcenteredcommunity.com. It's absolutely free, and I cannot wait to see you in there.